The vibes on the PGA Tour are immaculate right now. Rory McIlroy coming off a victory at Pebble Beach. Scotty Scheffler looking healthy once again, back in the field for this week. And we're heading out to TPC Scottsdale for the WM Phoenix Open, one of the most fun events of the entire year. What could possibly be better right now? We're going to break down the WM Phoenix Open, breaking down what to know about TPC Scottsdale, our best bets at FanDuel Sportsbook, and our top DFS plays for this week over on FanDuel. Welcome on in to the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here as I am every Tuesday by Brandon Gdula. You can check him out on X at Gdula13. He's on Blue Sky at Gdula. Check out his work at FanDuel Research, where he is a senior managing editor. Brandon headed out to the WM Phoenix Open. Rory McIlroy victorious at Pebble Beach. How you doing today?
I'm good. Would you want to go to the WM Phoenix Open?
Yes.
This is like the kind of atmosphere. I assumed it was a pretty firm yes for you.
Yeah.
So
I would worry about the Sunday because I want to make sure I can get back to the hotel or Airbnb, whatever it is, before Super Bowl, because I freaking love Super Bowl Sunday. But outside of that, this is 100% the kind of event I'd want to go to.
Yeah, I kind of thought so. You're a lot more social than I am. But also, like, I don't know where that line is with you of like how much partying you want to do.
I don't know if I'd partake in like the partying because I'm 33, man. Like, I can't handle partying anymore. But like, I would want to be around. I like being around the atmosphere, even if I'm not partaking myself. Does that make sense?
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't make sense.
Like, I'm not chugging beers on like in the stands and stuff like that. Like, I'm too old for that. But like, I want to be around it because it's just fun to me.
Give me like a gloomy, cold, windy.
I would take that too. No, that's the thing is I would say yes to that too. I like both.
Okay, so
I got range, bro. I got range. Okay.
That's true. That's where I wanted to see how far your range extended because
I'm not going to a live event because I need more atmosphere than that. Like the music does not do it for me. But like, I'll go to a regular PGA Tour event too. I like the atmosphere, whether it's the intensity of like a major or like the rowdiness of the WM Phoenix Open. I think both are extremely attractive to me.
Yeah, I mean, people love this event. I like it from a golf perspective, just because like I wouldn't want to necessarily go to it is not like indicative of how I feel about it. It really does feel like it's the first week. Obviously, it's Super Bowl Sunday when this event coincides, perfectly. But it really kind of unofficially feels like the start of golf season in a way because it's like the passing of the torch. I know it passes the torch to the Super Bowl, but like it really feels like, okay, now it's time for golf to take back over for us until next September.
I mean, the true passing of the torch is Super Bowl to Daytona 500, but like I get your point. They can share the torch. It's fine. I'm not going to push back too much on this. Just watch yourself a little bit.
Yes.
Watch yourself.
Yes. I would be more. Well, no, I don't think my ears could handle going to a NASCAR event.
No, you have to wear earbuds. Like you need to wear like you can always tell if a person is a first timer at a NASCAR race because they're not wearing earplugs, they're a first timer. Like that's the easiest tell of all time. You got to wear earplugs.
Or they've gone enough times where they can't hear much to begin with.
No, even then, you can tell.
Like 10 years ago, I went to an Iron Maiden concert, and my brother made sure that we had earplugs because he was a very seasoned concert goer.
Yeah.
And I had earplugs, and I still felt like the rattle like in my rib cage of the amps. And just for like the heck of it, I took my earplugs out for like a couple notes, and I thought I was going to die, basically.
Oh, yeah. Your head like vibrates, right?
But there were people like next to me without any hearing protection. I'm like, how is this happening? So I don't know. We got into it, but
that sounds fun too. That's also a good vibe. I'm also in for that. Like I want experiences, whether it's Iron Maiden, Daytona 500, WM Phoenix Open. I'm in. for the fun, for the atmosphere. Hopefully for some winning bets, question mark. No Taylor Pendrith in the field this week, so that does ruin my entire approach thus far to PGA, but we'll break down where we're seeing value at FanDuel Sportsbook for this week, top bets, and much more to get you ready for this week's event. But first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel Research Podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. Our NFL show, final one of the year, coming up on Thursday, breaking down our thoughts on the single game DFS slate for Super Bowl 59 between the Chiefs and the Eagles. That'll be 10 a.m. Eastern on the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page, but also on the FanDuel Research Podcast feed. After that, of course, is PGA shows every Tuesday on the FanDuel Research Podcast feed. Subscribe there. And if you like what you hear, leave us a 5-star rating and review as well. Of course, also our brand new YouTube page. It's the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page, which is where every single heat check will live. Also getting videos from Allie McCann and others breaking down their thoughts on PGA betting as well. Heat check will go up every Tuesday on that feed. You can find some shorts breaking down little clips of what we talked about on these shows. So all that on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. So head over there right now. If you're not watching as we speak, check out the new FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. Subscribe there. Turn on notifications to get notified as a new post goes up. And leave us a thumbs up on YouTube. We appreciate all of you watching. We appreciate those who watched last week as well. And make our new home here for the heat check on the FanDuel Golf Betting YouTube page. The FanDuel Kick of Destiny is back, and this time it's every Manning for himself. This Super Bowl, 2 legends will take the field in a sudden death field goal showdown. Peyton versus Eli, live from New Orleans. One kick to claim ultimate family bragging rights. Who will rise to the moment? Pick your winner now in the FanDuel app. And if you back the right brother, you'll earn a share of $10 million in bonus bets. It's the FanDuel Kick of Destiny 3. Make your pick, and don't forget to tune in to watch the showdown live during the Super Bowl 59 pregame show on Fox at 3 p.m. Eastern. May the best Manning win. FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. No purchase necessary. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at sportsbook.com. Sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/Chat, Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. You made your pick a Destiny pick yet or no?
I'm Team Eli. I'm a younger brother. Eli was...
I didn't think about that.
Eli was better on Saturday Night Live than Peyton, which is saying a lot because Peyton was great.
He had that one skit, which was phenomenal.
Eli was really underrated, not necessarily from a football standpoint, but just from like being, I kind of want Eli to, I don't know if it's an upset, I don't really know, but I'm Team Eli. What about you?
Leaning Peyton, but I'm asking everyone on my shows this week because I don't know yet, so I got to pick their brain. Austin Swain picked Eli too, so I think I have to go Peyton at this point. Like, just we're getting too much Eli buzz, got to go against it. So I think I'm leaning Peyton, but to be determined for sure.
Eli feels so contrarian that he might be the chalk, but like from people you ask, I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'll keep tabs and let you know so we can get projected roster rates for Eli versus Peyton for the Kick of Destiny 3 on Sunday. Let's dig in now to the WM Phoenix Open. It, of course, is at TPC Scottsdale, which is 7,261 yards at a par 71. There are 132 golfers in the field. About half make the cut. 65 plus ties make the cut after the first 2 rounds. So a cut back in play for this week, as it is not a signature event. Brandon, what should we know about TPC Scottsdale for this week?
Yes, I'm sorry for you that the cut's back. I know
my arch nemesis.
You tend to love.
We don't have a cut for 1 week, and I finally beat you in the bobble hat. Like, correlation sometimes is causation.
Yeah, by what, 2.5 or 3 points, something like that.
Who's counting?
Clearly both of us are trying to count, but not doing a great job of it. So it's about an average course in terms of length. That's 7,200 yard par 71, but fairway's a little more narrow than average on tour, but the greens themselves larger than average. So kind of balances out in that sense. Got some POA, bent grass, rye overseed on these greens. So a little bit of an uncommon green surface, but for the most part, I don't think this is one to overcomplicate too much. The reality is winning scores get close to 20 under. Last year was 21 under, but 19, 16, 19, 17 under par. Basically got to be under par to make the cut. So you got to be able to score. And how do you do that at the stadium course? Well, you gotta be good off the tee. I'll say that. I won't say long. I won't say accurate necessarily, but you got to gain strokes off the tee in order to sort of have success at TPC Scottsdale. So that's not my number one stat though. Stop me if you've heard this before, but my number one stat for the week is strokes gained approach. It's the most important, and this week it actually kind of matters a little tiny bit more based on what I like to look at than average. So from there, what does it come down to? Well, not really the wedge play, but really the putting. If you look back at recent winners here, all five, each of the last five were top 15 in strokes gained putting and strokes gained tee to green. So all around game kind of tracks with typically what we've been looking for lately anyway, where we don't try to overcomplicate or overanalyze things, look at these really, obscure splits or anything like that. But it's going to be basically the best putter out of the best ball striker for the week, which is almost always the case. But whenever the stats specifically tell us that this is the recipe, I think it's important to keep that in mind. Once we get into some of the top players who've played well here consistently, a lot of good ball strikers, I'd say, who can putt or get hot with the putter. So I think that's important. And if you really want some sort of granular kind of stat, proximity from 150 to 200 is really where you see elevated number of approach shots this week. So you can kind of factor that in. You can go to PGAtour.com, or Data Golf has an approach skill tool. Got some cool detailed stats there that adjust for field strength. But again, that's 150 to 200. But really what I'm looking for is irons, so strokes gained approach, driver, so strokes gained off the tee, and putting.
Yeah, and I honestly like that for this week. There are some guys who may not be phenomenal around the green, but are really good in those two areas. And I think that if I have the green light to go that direction, I would love to do so. Quietly, Scotty Scheffler kind of fits the good ball striker plus good putter. That part's actually been pretty good recently too. So that's scary for the field for sure. So we'll talk about Scotty, I'm sure, not the show for today, but overall, I agree with you where we're looking at just good overall golfers. I'm slightly downplaying around the green a bit, which I'm fine with. So I think that's kind of a relaxing approach for this week. Speaking of Scotty, let's talk about the history here at TPC Scottsdale and identify some golfers who have done well at this course in the past. Scotty, of course, a two-time winner here. Only third last year, though. So did he actually make the list of guys with good course history due to that third, or is he now just jettisoned entirely?
Well, he's lucky. He does lead still by a lot. So I look at the last 5 years of an event and look at total strokes gained. So basically it accounts for volume and success, in recent years. Don't like to dig too far back. Don't also like to look at one event or two events and say that this player is better than another golfer necessarily. But Scheffler, for me, leads the field in total strokes gained over the last 5 years at the stadium course. You mentioned the third, you mentioned the 2 wins. Before that, he was 7th. And prior to that, he actually missed the cut in 2020. So he's got a missed cut in this data, but still very easily leads in total strokes gained. For anybody watching and maybe not digging in yet to the betting odds, Jim just pulled up the FanDuel Sportsbook win odds. And Scotty Scheffler is plus 280 with nobody else shorter than plus 1200, just for some context into what we're getting into. But coincidentally, or maybe not so coincidentally, the next 2 names on the board, Justin Thomas at 12-1 and Hideki Matsuyama at 16-1, are the next 2 names on my list for past history at TPC Scottsdale. Justin Thomas has finished 12th, 4th, 8th, 13th, and 3rd here over his last 5 years. It's a pretty solid, track record. And if you dig back even further, I never know if it's farther or further, if it's time, because it's not a physical distance, so it should be further, but it feels wrong. Because if you view time linearly, then I don't know. We'll get the interns to answer that question for us. But
I have my
in
29 guide somewhere. I can consult it.
Yeah. Well, they're changing stuff, so who knows at this rate. But JT also third, solo third in 2019 and T17 in 2018 as well. So a really long, consistent track record for him. I think he's someone who fits the vibe of the WM Phoenix Open, but also fits that. Remember, we talked about good ball strikers who can putt. That's kind of where the question comes with JT is the putter right now. It's not great, but again, you can't argue with these results. But if you want to talk like good ball strikers and the putter, you can look at Hideki. He fits. Now the putter's cooled off a little bit. The last 2 weeks has been pretty neutral. It's not a totally full sample, but at this course, he's finished 22nd, 29th, 8th, 42nd, and 16th over the last 5 years. That cuts off a T15. He did withdraw in 2018, but win, second, and fourth. So, like, yes, Scotty's kind of the man here, but Hideki also just eats everyone alive at this course. So Hideki deserves a lot of attention as well. I'm actually going to pause here because I think these three stand out so much compared to everybody else. Is there anything you want to talk about? Because I'll say spoiler alert, the current form section, these are the top three names as well.
That's pretty bananas, honestly. And I think that they're the reason why I'm having a hard time with betting stuff for this week is because they, like, a lot of times you'll see three golfers with short odds. And like, okay, like they're a bit of a value. They're pushing them up to make sure they don't get beat on those guys. But like, I think it's justified for all three, especially Scotty at plus 280, JT 12-1, Hideki Matsuyama 16-1. Like, I can't really like poo-poo any of those guys. Like, I'm not going to bet JT or Hideki at those numbers, but like, I'm not like, nah, I can't understand why they're there. So like, I guess that to me, they're sucking up a lot of helium in the betting markets this week.
Yeah, not creating enough value necessarily. I have Scotty pretty much a fair value at plus 280. So it gets.
I bet him at plus 220 yesterday. Like he should be where he is.
Yeah, and that's absurd to think about in a field this large, but it's not just the past form; it's the current form, and he's just substantially, noticeably better than everyone else in the field, even someone playing really great golf like Hideki. So it's a fair number. I'm just never really going to bet anybody like around plus 280 to win a full field tournament. I'm just not going to do it. But
what if your numbers say like he should be plus 250?
I'm just probably not going to do it.
Value's value, bro. Come on.
I know that's because I'm a coward when it comes to that. But
terrible.
But no, these three stand out. We're going to talk about like roster construction and game theory from a DFS standpoint. I'll just say Scotty Scheffler's salary of $13,400 feels kind of unattainable, but it's not. And with his win odds being what they are, I mean, if you look at just if you convert FanDuel Sportsbook's win probabilities or win odds to probabilities, he's 26.3% likely to win if you view it that way. I know you got to account for, hold and everything, but I mean,
you don't if you've got him close to a value. So
sure. Like, I'm just kind of trying to give context. Yeah. 1 out of every 4 times he's going to win this. So from a DFS standpoint, I think Scotty's a big priority, but there's no shade to JT or Hideki.
And frankly, I guess for me, from a DFS perspective, if you're not using Scotty, I'd want to go JT plus Hideki personally. I think that's the way I'd want to approach things this week.
I think that's a really heads up way to go about it. And I also agree.
Okay.
These three guys are in great form and have played well here, but other golfers who have played well here in the past, Sahith Theegala, 5th, 39th, and 3rd in his 3 starts over the last 3 years. His salary's $10,600. He's 40-1 to win. Nick Taylor, winner here last year, runner-up the year before, but that came after 2 missed cuts. So if you look at like the missed cut second, you'd probably say, guys, form's not that great here, but just notable where it's probably worth pointing out at a situation like this why we don't just look at like past form. There's a little bit more to it than that. Sam Burns is a name that I keep looking at a lot. From a DFS standpoint, I think his salary is a little too close to it to Hideki or JT, but we know he's a great putter. He's finished 3rd, 6th, missed cut, 22nd over the last 4 years here. Jordan Spieth also, I don't know. I never know what to do with Spieth at this rate, honestly. But he's played well here in the past, even whenever his form hasn't been phenomenal. Back-to-back T6s, T60 in 2022 and T4 in 2021. He's also got 2 more top 10s to kick off his career at this course. So a lot of kind of bigger names with form that's notable. Just some value plays below 10,000 just to sort of put a bow on this list. The best form among golfers below 10,000 on FanDuel, Billy Horschel. His salary is 8,900. Max Homa at 94. Matt Fitzpatrick at 98. Keith Mitchell at 92. And Tom Hoagie at 9,000.
One guy I did want to touch on there quickly is Matt Fitzpatrick. His salary is kind of high at 98. I was a bit surprised by that, but he's one of those guys similar to a Spieth, a Homa, et cetera, where the long-term form is very good and you're kind of looking for signs of hope. Fitzpatrick has been better in January than he was playing the DP World Tour this winter. 24th at the Century. The irons were not good there, but everything else was. Played the Pebble Beach Pro-Am and in the track rounds at Pebble. He was okay there too. So I haven't quite seen enough to buy in there. I haven't seen enough to buy in Homa either. Are you looking to, and Spieth, definitely not based on what happened last week. So I know those names look good in the value range. I haven't seen enough from any of them really to draw me in. Are you in the same boat with them?
Yeah, I mean, Spieth's putter has been really bad and his ball striking is really inconsistent. So that's tough. Maybe he just, again, finds it here.
Yeah.
But it's not a great process. I think you can differentiate in other ways. As for Homa, the irons have not really been there lately. For the most part, the putter's not great. It's fine, but not ideal. And then Fitzpatrick, he's someone who in my long-term model always kind of rates out pretty well, but I actually revisited my distribution for older rounds because guys like Fitzpatrick just, I think, needed to be downweighted a little bit.
Yeah.
Now he's doing a lot with the putter, but that ball striking, even the chipping, not great. So I agree with you where there's interesting names, but realistically, I'm gonna go Robert McIntyre over Jordan Spieth at similar salaries.
Sure.
I'm gonna go Billy Horschel over Max Homa. I know it's a salary difference there, but I kind of like Billy more. Maybe we'll do the Dirty Bird out there on the party green. So
I like Maverick McNeely more than Matt Fitzpatrick. If we're talking the same guys in those ranges, I like Mav more than Matt.
I don't mind that. So
yeah, it's a bummer. I'd like to buy low on those guys.
Yeah.
I like all three. I want to root for all three. I just haven't seen enough to buy in on them quite yet. And the reason is because of their current forms. Let's talk about who is in good current form entering the WM Phoenix Open. Brandon, who stands out to you there?
Well, I mentioned, okay, so my process for this is the last 3 months of data from Data Golf's True Strokes Gained query, which adjusts for field strength. You need a minimum of 2 events in here to make the list. But Scotty Scheffler's at a 4.05 True Strokes Gained per round, which is disgusting in this span. It's two events, but great there. Justin Thomas at 2.19, so nearly a 2-stroke difference per round over JT in this sample. And then Hideki 2.06. So again, about a 2-stroke difference. Now, long term, I have about a stroke and a half for between Scheffler and Hideki once you factor in course fit this week. So that's an absurd amount of strokes if they've ever played to their baseline. It's not how golf works, but that's why he's plus 280, and that's why I don't think it's that outrageous. But other names worth shouting out here. Sepp Straka, his salary is 10,900. He's at a 2.00. Sungjae Im, consistently solid, but never really truly spiking. Salary of 11.4, 1.74 true strokes gained per round. Austin Eckroat, value play at 8,800. He's at a 1.53. Lee Hodges a 1.52 at 8,700. Both of those below 9,000. Rasmus Højgaard, shout out to him from last week, 1.46 true strokes gained per round at a salary of 10,500. And Harry Hall, 1.32 at a salary of 9,300 before a bit of a drop off, or things kind of just get, a little more tepid from there. So anybody jump out to you from this list.
I wanted to ask you quick about Rasmus Højgaard, because there's a bit of a sticker shock here, because when we were high on him last week, salary was $8,400. Now it was a signature event, so a very tough field there. But now he's a 10-5. And I'm not going to lie, I still am not totally out on him at that salary. I know it's like weird to be like, oh yeah, I don't care about the salary, but like he was really good in the DP World Tour over the winter in that sample you mentioned. Looked really good in the PGA Tour last week at times. I know he finished 22nd, but like he was up there for a bit before that too. And for a value play at 84, you'd have taken that. I haven't been able to like bite yet at 10-5, and I haven't bet him yet, but like I've looked at him there, and I think he's at least like viable in that range. How are you feeling about Højgaard now? The salary and the betting odds are pretty drastically different than they were last week.
So he's got 13 straight measured events with positive field strength adjusted strokes gained approach, and 16 of his last 17 putters like neutral to solid. He can gain distance, which is nice. He's like a good player. 10-5 is a lot. I kind of would. This goes against like my thought process. Still prefer Robert McIntyre a bit because the irons clearly favor Rasmus, but the overall game and the longevity I think is a little bit better for McIntyre. And I don't know that it's quite a why not both situation. I just don't know if like this is the week where I'm going to be in this range to that level. And then he's honestly like not that far off from some other names that I like. Now, the real caveat here is if you're getting to Scotty, even 200 in salary difference might be too much to like wiggle.
Yeah.
But like Tom Kim or Rasmus for 300 more.
Right.
I much prefer Tom Kim.
Right.
So I don't know. Like I'm not out on him entirely, but we're not on him like we were last week when he was clearly undersalaried. Now he's at least fairly, maybe slightly oversalaried.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's more, it's kind of what you said about where it's like, it's the guys around him that push me off him. It's not Højgaard himself. It's the fact that I like Tom Kim more at 10-8. I think Tom Kim's a betting value personally. And then McIntyre, I also do like at 10-4 for betting because his betting odds are pretty long too. So it's more so like there are other guys that look both for betting in terms of in the form of McIntyre and for DFS in the form of Tom Kim than a Højgaard, but like I at least I did look into it because I thought that he was at least worth discussing at the numbers he was at for sure. Weather for this week is perfect. It looks great out in Scottsdale, so a little jealous about that. Low wind speeds, temperature's perfect. Sounds great. So sign me up again, as you asked before, for the WM Phoenix Open. I will happily go if asked to do so. Let's dive in now to the betting odds at FanDuel Sportsbook and try to identify our favorite bets for this week at the WM Phoenix Open. Brandon, Scotty Scheffler checking in at plus 280, JT 12-1, Hideki 16-1. Which outright stand out to you at FanDuel Sportsbook for this week?
I'm going back to Sungjae at 22-1. It's the voice is more about the fatigue. Not that I'm begrudgingly like I have to pick a name. That's not it. He's approaching that like long time Xander Finau territory of like, look, the math's there, the game is there, but at a certain point, you need him to do it. But whenever you factor everything in, like 22 is a good number for me this week. With Scheffler soaking up a lot of the win equity, it's not creating enough for that second tier for JT and Hideki for me. Again, we talked about those three. They have the best course history and the best current form of the entire field. They deserve to be the favorites by good margins, but just mathematically, I'm not quite seeing it where I wanted in terms of their value, but I do start to see it for Sungjae. He's made all 5 career cuts at TPC Scottsdale. He's got 3 top 17 finishes and 2 top 10 results. He was T33 last week with weak irons in his measured events, but a really strong putter. The putter's kind of just a constant for Sungjae at this rate. Over the last 2 seasons on tour, he's a 76th percentile putter from within 15 feet on tour. You love to see that. You expect the putter to be there. He's just kind of a good, like long-term player. I have him behind Scheffler, Hideki, and just JT in terms of long-term form. So he's fourth. He's fourth in the win odds. I understand that. But at a certain point, you kind of get to a point in the model where you see some value. And I first see it with Sung J M. So I have no issues going to Sung J once more this week at 22-1.
Yeah, I think he just makes a lot of sense because he will be in contention most likely. And that gives you a shot on Sunday. And you can't guarantee that with everyone. So I know that the wins have not been there yet. We had this same discussion last week with Sungjae. But like if you put yourself in position to capitalize enough times, it'll happen eventually. So I understand the tiredness, like you said, within your voice. I understand that. And I felt that at times too, but I don't think now is the time to jump off on Sungjae yet. Cause like we're not paying a massive tax for him being in contention, I don't think, at least yet.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain weeks where you see it. There are certain weeks where you don't.
Yeah.
And you're not seeing it this week when you have three, big timers at the top. And that's kind of week where Sungjae, I think, can go out and do it.
Yep, I think that does make sense. So you're on Sung JM at 22-1. What other outrights stand out to you this week?
I like Tom Kim. I think it's just a good number at 33 on FanDuel Sportsbook. I think he's got the right mentality, which is not something that I really tend to factor in. But this week, it's a different kind of format. And he's finished T50 here, but also T17 in his two starts, each over the last 2 years. He's gained in strokes gained approach and strokes gained putting in each of those starts here. Coming off of a T7 at Pebble, which is his 8th straight event with positive strokes gained approach. And I think he's going to get, out of sorts. The putter, it's about solid baseline, like long term. He can roll in some of those long putts. And frankly, like you want a golfer who has some precision. He's not exactly where I want him from that 150 to 200 range. He's 49th in this field, but from just inside that, he's 5th from 100 to 150. And he's 6th overall from 50 to 150. So like, he can get into birdie position. He can roll on putts. He can get going. I think it's going to take, last week we said with all of those great golfers in good form, feels like one of them is just going to go get it. And Rory did. This week, I feel like you have to have what it takes to kind of go take it from Scotty, JT, and Hideki. And I mean, Tom Kim has that in him. So again, the model likes him, but I also see the case for it beyond that. So Tom Kim, let's go.
I'm glad that you're there because Tom Kim is actually the only outright bet I like this week at 33-1 at FanDuel Sportsbook. I think this is, like you said, a really good number for a guy who's been in play to win a bunch of these events recently. Over the past 13 events for Tom Kim, he has 3 runner-up finishes, including at the Hero. So facing like the big dogs, finished second there. Not a win, but that's still really impressive. And you mentioned the irons, consistently gaining there. But I think the bigger thing as far as upside is that he's had spike weeks with the irons. And if we're talking about beating a Scheffler, beating Justin Thomas, beating Hideki Matsuyama, you need a week where you kind of go bananas with the approach play. Tom Kim can definitely do that. He's also gaining off the tee a bit more recently, which I think is interesting. He's had some more big weeks there recently. So I think we're seeing upside with the driver, upside with the irons. As you said, not a bad putter either. I think that's a good formula for him to finally break through, turn those runner-ups into win. And I think that he's got the upside to do that here in Scottsdale this week. So to me, if I'm placing one outright at current odds, because I did say that I like Scheffler at plus 320, not there anymore. At current odds, Tom Kim 33-1. I think that's a really good bet for this week. So we're both in on Tom Kim. Again, what could go wrong?
Well, he could not win. That could go wrong.
That could go wrong, yes.
But I mean, a lot of guys could not win this week as well.
Correct. Yep. Okay.
In fact, I think most of them won't win.
Fair point. Fair point. So you're on Sung Jam 22-1 and Tom Kim 33-1, and I am on Tom Kim 33-1 this week as well. What about the non-outrights? What are you seeing as being valued there at FanDuel Sportsbook?
Like some finishing positions, top 10s on Corey Connors at plus 360. The Canadian. I did not put the Canadian flag emoji in the note sheet. Oh, is he 400 now? All right, yeah. Take that. So he's lost strokes putting in 2 straight events, but has been kind of solid over the last 2 PGA Tour seasons from within 15 feet. So you kind of expect better things from the putter for Connors, which I know historically has felt wrong, but he's elevated his baseline putting pretty substantially. And talked about that 150 to 200 yard range in terms of strokes gained per shot, which again, you can find on Data Golf. You can just look at proximity numbers too from PGA Tour.com. But he is second behind just Scotty Scheffler in this field over the last calendar year in strokes gained per shot specifically from that range. You like to see that. And he's sixth in this field over the last 50 in strokes gained tee to green overall. So kind of like we know he's a great baseline tee to green player. He's got that kind of proximity range locked in, and he's due for some putting regression. So I like Corey Connors to finish top 10, now plus 400.
Yeah.
Also, did you have something?
Well, I was going to say, like, you talked about how we want good ball strikers at this event.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't Corey Connors like one of the first guys who comes to mind as like not a long shot, but like a non-favorite for a top 10 kind of bet? Like, shouldn't he be like the guy we think about in that regard?
Yeah, like I said, he's sixth in this field over the last 50 rounds, tee to green. Once you adjust for field strength, according to Data Golf, you love that. And again, he's putting poorly, so his actual numbers are dropping. The betting odds. So I like Connors this week to finish top 10.
Yeah. Okay. I think that one makes a lot of sense. I did look into Connors as well, so I think that makes sense. What other top 10s you looking at this week?
Robert McIntyre plus 450. I talked putting regression for Connors. McIntyre is really due for putting regression. 83rd percentile putter from within 15 feet over the last 2 seasons. 31st percentile from outside 15 feet though. So you expect him to continue to make the makeable putts from within 15 feet, but get a little more luck rolling in some of those putts from outside 15 feet. Pretty strong tee to green game as well. 7th in this field in true strokes gained tee to green over the last 50 rounds. He missed the cut here last year. The putter wasn't great, but he's made 12 straight cuts across the PGA and DP World Tours dating back to August. So he should be able to keep himself in contention. And he's also got enough upside, to finish top 10, which is, again, that's an upside finish for any golfer. It's kind of expectation for Scotty, but for everyone else, it's a bit of an upside week.
Yeah, I like McIntyre too, and we'll talk about him in a second as being a guy that I like. Any other non-outrights for you this week?
Yeah, I'll throw out one more. Top 20 on JT Poston. I think he's got the right game. He's lost strokes putting in 4 straight measured events, and it's really bad, honestly. But what's odd is he's a really good or like a solid putter from under 15 feet since the start of last season. So you wouldn't expect that to continue. Maybe he just forgot how to putt, or more likely he is able to find the putter and make some again. So plus 240 to finish top 20. And, he's like not as bad of a ball striker as you might think for being a good putter. So there's just basically, you kind of see the finishing positions drop as the putting recently gets worse. That's when you want to kind of buy back in. So plus 240 finish top 20. Poston definitely has that in his arsenal this week.
Okay, so you're on Poston top 20 at plus 240. You have got Robert McIntyre top 10 at plus 450 and Corey Connors top 10 at 4-1 at FanDuel Sportsbook. While I'm here on the page of FanDuel Sportsbook, I want to bang out my top 20 as well. It's Lucas Glover plus 240 in the same range as JT Poston. I just like the irons too much to avoid a guy at plus 240. They've been good since September, and that's a long sample at this point of Lucas Glover's irons being phenomenal. The putting has been pretty good in that time too. I know Glover's not known being a good putter, but he's had that. Finished third at Pebble Beach due to good irons and good putting. Good formula here. So I like Glover top 20 at plus 240. I do think this is a ambitious bet. Like plus 240 is not long by any means. So I feel a little bit guilty about it, but like just seeing the green flash on my spreadsheets for his irons, like it was like a siren song for me to Lucas Glover this week.
Are you saying like plus 240 is not long enough for any recommendation?
No, it's more so like for Lucas Glover, like 240 plus 240 is not a discount. That's not a bargain by any means. I don't think he's a huge value there, but it's enough for me to bite at least.
I don't know. I think it's fine.
Okay. So I'm on Glover plus 240. The top 10 I like is one you mentioned too. Robert McIntyre top 10 plus 450 at FanDuel Sportsbook for a lot of the reasons that you alluded to, where he's just kind of a guy I've been buying into generally recently, and he hasn't really given me a reason to jump off the ship just yet. with no Taylor Pendrith in the field, got to go somewhere. So might as well go to Big Shot Bob. He on the PGA Tour in January, he's finished 15th, 53rd, and 40th, but he's lost strokes putting in all three of those. So probably could have been better. And like the long-term data on him as a putter is not that bad. Played well on the DP World Tour over the winter too. If you look at in the past 6 months over at Data Golf, their true strokes gain numbers, McIntyre ranks 10th there in the field. So getting a plus 450 for a top 10 is pretty intriguing. If you look at strokes gain to stabilization, which is again, looking at each golfer, what they've done off the tee the past 24 rounds, an approach past 36, and then past 50 for around the green and putting based on Brandon's research he did back in the old number fire days. He's ranked 8th there in this field in that number. So good recently. Good when you look at stabilization rates, plus 450 for a top 10. I'm pretty happy we're both on Robert McIntyre for this week. I think that he is a really fun option at those numbers.
Yeah. He's like a bit of a fan favorite, or he's a favorite within the golf discourse space.
Yeah.
I've never been at quite as high, but this week I think things are finally aligning. So let's go, Bob.
Let's ride. So I got Robert McIntyre top 10 plus 450 and Lucas Glover top 20 at plus 240. Let's take a look now at the DFS slate for this week over on FanDuel.com. We're going to scroll through the salaries for this week and identify the golfers we are keying in on in each tier. We kind of discussed this before, but to me, at the top of the heap, Scotty Scheffler, $13,400. Justin Thomas, 12-1. Hideki Matsuyama, 11-8. If I don't have Scotty, I want JT plus Hideki. And it sounded like before, Brandon, you were kind of leaning towards that as well. Is that where you're going to settle in this week? Is that kind of approach for this week?
Yeah, so I'll kind of answer it a different way to start. But if you're going with Scotty to start things, you're probably going with like a Corey maybe his buddy Sam Burns at 11 for your second stud if you like Burns, which I'm not out on. Maybe it's Connors, maybe it's the red hot Sepp Straka, but maybe it's Tom Kim, and we both like Tom Kim. So I'm gonna assume that that's kind of our 1-2 sort of our baseline start. You really can just swap out Scheffler and Tom Kim for JT and Hideki, and you're fine.
Yeah.
So I agree with you where if you're not going with Scotty, you may as well play both JT and Hideki. And look, Scotty, from a process standpoint, we talked about the 26.3% win probability based on his win odds at FanDuel Sportsbook. If he does not win, you are most likely not going to see him in the optimal lineup unless there are some values who have great weeks and then they just cherry pick the optimal lineups. But more realistically, if Scotty doesn't win, you might not see him in like tournament winning lineups because he might not have enough juice. There might not be enough points. So I understand avoiding him more in tournaments, but whenever you're playing a head-to-head, I know, Jim, you're going to force him into our head-to-head.
I am.
Would be astonished if you weren't.
Nope.
So like I get it from a game theory standpoint, but process-wise, Scotty, he's just by far the best golfer in the field. Long term, it's not particularly close.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that you kind of need to build things around him for a head-to-head lineup. I'll be there in tournaments too. But again, if I don't go there, it will be Hideki plus JT. Like you said, pretty comparable build between Scheffler plus Tom Kim or JT plus Hideki. Both those are going to be a similar place. You mentioned Sam Burns, 11-2. I don't mind him at the salary. I just don't think he'll fit into my build is the way it winds up working out because I want to go that way. If I go with Scheffler plus Sam Burns at 11-2, got 88.50 left per golfer, I kind of do think I'd rather save specifically the 400 for Tom Kim. I don't mind Connors at 11-1 for Tom Kim or Straka. So I think that that's the way I would go. Any else want to shout out here as we get down through the 11,000 range?
We're kind of talking about like not really fitting in. Sung Jae is 11-4. Sure. He's even more awkward to kind of get into lineups because, you would just go to JT and Hideki, or more likely if you're playing Scotty, you're getting a Tom Kim through Sam Burns somewhere there. But Sung Jae's in that he's even more awkward again to try to fit in. So I do think that he makes a lot of sense. But if I go up from Tom Kim to Sung Jae, and I already have a golfer in like the 7K range, it gets real tight real fast. And I don't want to, kneecap my lineups too much by having multiple value golfers. Now, I mentioned optimal lineups. Like So a good chance we see the absolute after the fact cherry picked optimal. You'll see multiple golfers in the 7K range make it. It's a lot easier said than done after the fact. So I want to make sure that I'm making not handcuffing myself too much. So I'm probably not going to be able to play Sung Jae too often in DFS, which is why I'm fine. It's like another reason why I'm fine to bet him, because I'll kind of get exposure that way too.
Yeah, I think that does make sense as well. So let's go down here a bit further and begin with this Sepstraka at 10.9 and talk about the 10,000 range. I'm highest on Kim in this range at 10.8. I think that he makes a lot of sense, the pairing alongside Scotty Scheffler, because the irons are really good. I think he does have win equity, as we discussed during the betting section as well. He's a good consolation prize. If I can't get to Sam Burns, I might just go Tom Kim anyway, frankly. He's had good finishes. I think there's enough there for Tom Kim for him to be like the standout for me in this tier. Is Kim the same? Are you also putting Tom Kim in that same setup?
Yeah, Kim's the first name I want to look at in the 10K range pretty easily. He's a fine secondary stud. Even though the win odds are outside 30-1, if you're also getting the guy who's plus 280, it kind of helps smooth that out a little bit. But beyond that, I don't mind Sahith. Don't mind Rasmus, but I think beyond that, I'm going to Robert McIntyre first and foremost. It is kind of possible to get back up to him, even with a Scheffler Kim start.
Okay.
Depending on how you build things, but it's more than just a feeling, because I don't really build lineups based on feelings. I just see enough from him long term now to be okay with it, and I think he's a good fit here.
Yeah, I think that does make sense. I would also go McIntyre as my second one beyond Tom Kim in this range. So Tom Kim or McIntyre, the main guys we're turning to in the 10,000 range. Getting down now, 10,000 and lower. I know if we go top heavy, we're not getting the upper 9 range a lot. I'm kind of okay with that. The only guy who grabbed my attention was Maverick McNeely at 96. What about you in the upper 9 range? Anyone you are prioritizing this week, or anyone you're excited to play there?
Can't prioritize, but I'll just shout out JT Poston. If I like him enough for a top 20, I think 9,800 is a good enough number to get there. If I can't get back up to McIntyre, I'm okay to play Poston. Maybe that's where I find that extra amount to get from Tom Kim to Sung Jae. I think that's actually would work in the lineup that I built, my first one, and that would be kind of fun, because I think Scotty and Sung Jae is going to be a very uncommon duo. I think Scotty and JT or Hideki is going to be very uncommon as well. But yeah, that would work. So I think Poston deserves a bit of a shout. But as far as that, I don't think I'm going to prioritize anyone above 93, really.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah. I'm in the same spot. The reason I was on McNeely at $9,600 and again, just highest on him and not prioritizing him. Really good ball striking right now. Decent enough short game. He was good here last year. So McNeely checks enough boxes where I do like him at 96, but kind of like you said with Poston, not enough to prioritize him. Just kind of if I'm in this range, I'll take McNeely. That's fine by me. Now you said 93. I think that was a specific number. If we're on the same page here, because Siwoo Kim's salary is 93. I really like Siwoo Kim this week. I like Siwoo Kim most weeks, but I think especially here, really good all-around golfer, not good around the green, but that's not as big of a thing here, so I don't worry about that as much. Good course history, so I think I interpreted that as you're also on Siwoo Kim. Was I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, he's got 4 straight made cuts here, 3 straight top 26 finishes with a 23rd and a 12th the last 2 years, while actually not really gaining a lot, from approach play. And frankly, right now, the form is iffy enough where I understand why the salary is 93. But 12th at Pebble last week, the irons can get good. He can gain strokes off the tee because he's really accurate, but he's also not particularly short. And it's just a matter of whether he putts well, which he's done here each of the last 2 years. So I think there's enough from a profile standpoint for Siwoo to want to get there. I'm not opposed to a Harry Hall, Ricky Fowler type, but Siwoo kind of specifically jumped out a little bit more to me than those other names.
A funny mention Ricky, because he's on my list too. $9,200. Last week, 53rd. Obviously not great for a no-cut event, but did look pretty good at times, I thought. He's just generally been good since the start of the swing season. We've referenced before, Data Golf's true strokes gained. Over the past 6 months, Ricky's actually 7th in this field in true strokes gained across the past 6 months. So he's been pretty solid. His salary is 92. I prefer Siwoo Kim over Fowler, but I'm pretty okay with Ricky too. Any thoughts for you on Ricky at 92?
Former winner here
Yeah.
in 2019. He's got 2, 4, 6, 7 top 15s in his career here. 4 top 5s. Like, I don't know. Ricky, I know you haven't really watched TGL. He's kind of, I don't know, he feels relaxed or something
Yeah.
now. I don't mind Ricky this week. I prefer Siwoo, but Ricky's not that far off. And
Yeah.
it's still kind of hard to say that you can just bank on multiple names down here, because even though low 9s is a bit much if you're playing Scotty, like to have like 3 names here. But if I can get back up here, or maybe I omit like the Robert McIntyre and play like Siwoo, Ricky. That's how I get to like a Scotty JT sort of setup or something
Yeah.
like that. Or Hideki. I mean, I don't have a strong preference there, but I think Ricky helps open things up.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Any else in the 9,000 range you want to shout out?
Tom Hoagie, just to shout his name from the rooftops a little bit. He's someone that we like a good amount typically, but he feel like his irons are so good, like so good compared to what you typically get from a value golfer. Of course, you have to do more than that, but honestly, it's a really good baseline start. Hoagie is 8th over the last 50 rounds in approach. Not a great driver of the golf ball. The short game's a bit iffy, but I kind of think this is the right setup for him to be relevant and like remain relevant. So Hoagie at 9,000, I don't mind if he's part of my main lineup, but I might actually prefer Billy Horschel at 89. But
Okay.
anybody else for you in the 9K range?
No, I do like Hoagie enough where I could get there for sure, because I'm using the same logic for Lucas Glover to talk about him in a second. They're like the same golfer effectively. So like, if I like Hoagie, I should probably like, or if I like Glover, I should probably like Hoagie too. So I do like Hoagie, but to me, it does pick back up again around in the 8,000 range. So you mentioned Horschel. What puts you there?
So he's played well here in the past. He's like, the form right now is pretty good. A 9th at Pebble, 21st at the Amex. Like, the irons are kind of trending up. Don't really expect that long term. Once you see that for too long for golfers whose irons aren't great long term, they start to cool off a little bit. But he's played pretty well here in the past. Only one missed cut in like a dozen tries, with a solid number of top 10s. And he putts well on these greens. He's also got that mentality of kind of playing well. I think he wants to show up every time he's at the WM Phoenix Open, and his game right now is pretty solid from where it is typically leading into this event. So I got kind of high hopes for Billy at 89.
Yeah. Horschel makes sense. I'm on Glover primarily here at 89 because, just again, like we discussed before, the irons are so good right now. His finishes at TPC Scottsdale specifically have not been amazing. It's a lot of like made cut, like 40th, that kind of thing. But the irons now are better than they've been for most of those. So I think Glover makes a lot of sense. 89. I liked betting him. So I think that he's a guy I want to be on for this week. So you got Horschel, I got Glover. I also do like Austin Eckroat at $8,800. You talked about him from a betting perspective, or I think it was in the forum section, whereas he's a guy who's trending up. I bet Eckroat earlier on this week. Didn't like him enough to put him in like the recommendation section, but did bet him as well for a top 10. $8,800 for him. He's actually 12th in true strokes gained the past 6 months. He's really bad around the green, but again, I don't care about that as much this week. He could have good irons, good off the tee play, occasionally good putter. And for a value play, that's not too bad. And I'll just be in this range a lot, frankly, when I go with the top heavy approach of Scotty and Tom Kim or JT plus Hideki. I'll be here a lot. So I need another guy in this range I can like. I don't mind Horschel. I don't mind Tom Hoagie, so I'll put them in the mix too. But to me, Eckroat and Glover, two guys I like quite a bit.
Yeah, Eckroat's on my list too.
Cool.
He's kind of in my default lineup just because it's easy to make it work.
Yeah.
8th from 150 to 200 in terms of strokes gained per shot over the last 12 months. You mentioned the around the green play being pretty bad, but if that's bad, he's not really in contention, and it is what it is. Or what you're really hoping for is that he's hitting enough greens where that's not super vital. He's an accurate driver. He's 15th in ball striking over the last 50 rounds. So I think there's enough for Eckroat to be on this list for sure.
Yep, I'm on board with that for sure. Okay. Anyone else you want to shout out, whether in the 8,000 or the 7,000 range this week?
I think you kind of need to like be receptive to a name or two below like 88 if you want to get just a lot of Scotty and have a little flexibility. One of the names I keep going back to is Andrew Putnam, which really shouldn't surprise anybody who's ever listened to the show, but I like Putnam long term. He is good around the green, which I don't care about, but he's 11th in approach over the last 50 rounds, which is kind of absurd to get at 7,700. And Putnam's like the third biggest regression candidate for putting based on his long-term splits, 91st percentile putter from within 15 feet. That's pretty sick. 91st percentile on the PGA Tour, to sort of clarify that, not just specifically for this field. But putting him at 77 opens up a lot. It really gives you some freedom to mess around with Scheffler lineups. I'm not saying he's in every lineup kind of guy. I'm not saying he's a main lineup kind of guy, but if you're not receptive to anyone down here, you're going to have trouble, I think, rounding out too many lineups. Form here is bad. One top 7 or one T7, 5 missed cuts, but like you gotta kind of pay the Scotty tax in a way. Yeah. And if Putnam's the concession, I think he's the best concession of all.
Yeah, I think of the 7,000 range guys, he'd be my preferred one. I don't know if I'll need to get down here, but he'd be the first guy I'd turn to if I did. So you're going to put him 77. Other value plays we like, Billy Horschel 89, Lucas Glover 89, Austin Eckler 88, and then Tom Hoagie 9,000. Other guys we are turning to for this week. Who are your loves for DFS on FanDuel? Any salary, don't care. Who are your priorities this week?
Scotty, Tom Kim, and I think Billy Horschel.
Okay. I'm going to go Scotty, Tom Kim, Siwoo Kim, little name stack in there, and Glover, I think is where I'd go of the value guys. So, yeah, but a lot of value guys I'm okay with, which does help me feel good about their approach with Scotty for this week. Let's finish up with our win picks for this week. I won the bobble hat finally, so I get to pick if I want to go first and fourth or second and third. I'm going to pick first and fourth because I want Tom Kim, 33-1 as one of my win picks this week. We used in both our betting sections. Figured you'd probably take him if I didn't, so I'll go first and fourth. Take Tom Kim, 33-1. Who are your two win picks for this week?
So I'll go for the purposes of this game. I'll go Sungjae again at 22, and I'm kind of drawn to Sam Burns at 25.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to do Sam. Other names I was considering were Corey Connors and Robert McIntyre, but I want to get something on the board, and this is a way to get something on Sam Burns, who would not surprise me at all if he won this week.
So you're going to go Sam Burns and Sungjae Im. You said your approach is to get something on the board. I'm going to give myself 25% odds, put something on the board, and go Scotty Scheffler at plus 280. He's almost a value, or he is a value in your model. Value is value, bro. I'm going to put something on the board. We're going to Scotty Scheffler as my second win pick. I was hoping I could get Scotty. I didn't know, I know it's a short number, so I understand for this game why you might not want to do it, but I know every unit counts in this game.
Yeah.
Long season, I kind of wanted to stack some wins if I can. So I think Scotty, despite the short number, does still make sense.
Honestly, it's not a bad strategy at all.
Yeah. All right. So I got Scotty plus 280, Tom Kim 33-1 for this week in our win pick section. Any final thoughts for you, Brandon, before we close up shop for this week?
Enjoy it, and we'll talk Super Bowl on Thursday.
Yeah, Super Bowl Thursday, 10 a.m. on the FanDuel football betting YouTube page, but also don't forget to subscribe to our brand new golf betting YouTube page. Subscribe there, turn on notifications, and leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate those of you who have done so already. Back with you for more PGA next week and throughout the entire PGA season through the Tour Championship, all right here on this same page. Brandon, people have questions for you on social media, where can they find you there?
I'm on X at Gdula13, GDULA13, and on Blue Sky at Gdula.
I'm on both X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck with your PGA bets and DFS lineups. Enjoy the WM Phoenix Open. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been the Heat Check, a FanDuel Research podcast.